Hello, everyone, and welcome to Ready23 for this next panel that we have coming up here. It is stress resilience for public safety. I'm very excited to be here with you, and a big thanks to Rapid SOS for putting on this amazing virtual event, and to all of you, the attendees, for being here with us. And I'm excited to be here with our panelists as well. This is going to be an excellent discussion, and I'm going to turn it over here really quick before I give myself an introduction here to my panelists. We're just going to quickly go through and have them introduce themselves. So Courtney, let's go ahead and start with you.
Perfect. Hi, I am Lieutenant Courtney Van Marter. I work for the Westminster Fire Department, and I've been a firefighter for 20 years now. I am also extremely passionate about health and wellness in our industry, and that has caused me to pursue education in functional medicine. So I'm a functional medicine health coach, and I also work specifically with nervous system regulation to support first responders.
All right, perfect. Thank you very much for being here. It's good to have you. And let's move over to Leanne. Thank you for being here.
Great. Good morning, everyone. I'm Leanne Mogoski. I'm the Director of Communications out here in Monterey County, California, a consolidated agency. In my 27-year career, I've worked at 4 agencies. I started in the dispatcher console, and I've moved myself up to the director's position, working in all of the areas: administrative, technology, and training. And I now am very passionate about dispatcher advocacy, and I've spent a lot of time on both the state 911 advisory board and Cal NINA board. And in June of this year, I joined the National NINA board.
All right, excellent. Thank you as well for being here. And Corey, you're next.
Yeah, good morning, everyone. Corey Roberts. I'm the president and CEO of Mindbase, which is a proactive mental health platform for first responders. I spent my career in the public safety industry, working in CAD RMS companies and helping first responders with their CAD RMS systems. And now we're at Mindbase doing the exact same thing, but just helping the first responders themselves.
All right, excellent. Well, thank you all for being here. And really quick for everyone who's watching right now, my name is Ricardo Martinez, and I am the founder of Within the Trenches Media, as well as the I'm 911 movement. I'm also the host and creator of Within the Trenches podcast. And I was an industry partner for 8 years, but before all of that, for 13 years, I was also a 911 dispatcher, call taker, and on-the-floor supervisor. So I am, again, very excited to be here with all of you. And again, thank you to the panelists, Rapid SOS, and also our attendees. So we're going to jump right in here for this discussion. Again, this panel for stress resilience for public safety. I just kind of want to go over, some of the description that we have here before we start jumping into, some of the questions and discussion that we're going to be getting into here. But for this session specifically, we are going to be looking into the critical importance of nurturing culture of mental health and wellness within the high stress environment of being in the ECC. So for all of us, I kind of want to go back in time a little bit, and let's look back to what this topic of stress resilience was like in the beginning of our public safety career. And Courtney, I want to go ahead and start with you on this, because I feel like we all, when we started, I started when I was 19, that we didn't really talk about this that much. So what was it like for you in the beginning there?
Well, in light of not wanting to disclose my age, which is okay, I was later in my career, I was later at 30 when I pursued the fire service, but this was back in 2004. So as far as having any sort of stress resilience, even being a name or any supportive measures back in 2004 were non-existent. So it wasn't anything that we talked about. I was thinking the other day around our IFSTA manual is how firefighters are trained to receive their certifications. And I don't believe that there was even a chapter or a snippet in there to discuss like your overall health and well-being. I remember being asked on oral boards, what was that like, or how would I deal with critical incidents, and that's not even the wording that was used at the time. But I remember that piece of it. But then what I found throughout my career, that it did not exist. And I think that's what's driven me in general to create peer support teams, as I realized how much this job does have its effects on us on so many different levels. So
Perfect.
non-existent. Thank you for
Yeah.
asking.
Yeah. And we're going to get into some of those those tips and tools and everything here throughout this discussion. But Leanne, I want to go over to you with the same question. What was this topic like for you in the beginning?
Well, as I mature in my career, it was the 90s. This was not discussed. Stress resilience was showing up to work every day and making sure you could do your job and hoping like heck you could just get signed off and not screw up. So I don't really think that there was a thought of your own um, well-being and stress resilience. It was how can I show up and not get laughed at, not screw up, and not get glared at. I think that really was how it was in the beginning, and the intent was it was all meant with love, right? The more jokes you made, the more, but you had to figure it out pretty quick.
Yeah, they weren't heckling the nobodies, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. No, I fully agree. It was the same for me when I first started, back in 2001. Again, I was 19, and it was the same way. We didn't talk about it. The chief and lieutenant, no one told me that, they kind of told me some of the types that I would be possibly taking, but there wasn't anything about resilience or self-care or any of those things. It was just kind of you go with the flow. Now, moving over to Corey really quick, you mentioned how your background, where you come from and everything else, but from the time that you started really with public safety and doing everything towards this topic, what has that change been like for you? What have you seen from that time to the way it is now?
Yeah, Ricardo, as I think about it, just listening to Leanne and Courtney and yourself, with your experience, I might be the guy like on Sesame Street that one of these guys is not like the others. And I worked in the public safety software space. And as I talk to my friends and the many people that serve us in public safety, I mean, I would just say it's not talked about enough, right? It wasn't talked about enough back when I started in 1999 in that space up and through today. And as we work with tons of agencies across the US, I would say that the conversation's at least starting now, right? There's lots of people talking about things, but not maybe enough talking about what we're going to do and the action items we're going to take. I'll give you an example. I was at IACP just a few weeks ago in San Diego, and I was walking the hall with an assistant chief at a major city. And he said, if you kind of look around at the vendor hall, you can see what we're still spending money on, and it's not wellness. He's a big proponent of wellness, and he said, we're talking about it a lot, but we're not doing enough. And he said, as I kind of walk through these halls, I just see that we're not doing enough. And I think about that when the statistics are coming out that 24% of telecommunicators are feeling some form of PTSD. And I mean, there's feelings of the suicide rates among police officers and firefighters are double the line of duty. Then I think that we're just not doing enough. We're doing a lot to protect physical health, but not enough on the mental health side.
Yeah, I agree on that fully. And so I have to ask for each one of you, like how satisfying is it to now see, a lot of these changes, probably around even 2016 moving on to where we're at presently. There's been more and more and more and more resources, more conversation, things like this, virtual events, everything. How does that make you feel? It's got to be satisfying to now see that this is happening. Leanne, let's start with you.
I think it's twofold. When you grow up in that culture of you come to work every day and your badge of honor is to coming to work every day and not talking about it, and completely transitioning to it is talked about, it's okay not to be okay, and reinforcing that. And then at the same time, growing up into the leadership and administration, you quickly realize one size does not fit all. What I want may not be what Courtney wants, and it certainly may not be what you or Corey want. And so how do you create programs that make sure that can satisfy each person without with giving each person their own space and time? So I think that what's been really great since about that 2016 period and some of this virtualness is people can get some of the tools and resources they need, not only through these many online platforms and social media, But what I'm hoping to see, especially, you know, with the work with Mindbase and others, is we're starting to see a more acceptance level of it in the actual dispatch centers, firehouses, and in the police departments. You know, Corey really hit on it. When you walk a floor, you focus on what is our focus, and it's mostly, you know, technology, and sorry for the law and fire people, toys, to be able to do your job in the field. But our most important commodity is the person. So
it brings a smile to my face. It definitely brings a smile to my face to see a lot of the resources that are out there, and but also, you know, the concerning as well, the way both of you and Corey said, walking that floor and seeing you know, just a bunch of things, but also hearing, you know, conversations, because for myself, dispatch here doesn't turn off, so I hear all these different conversations, and I think we have a lot still to do. So moving on, you know, from that question, but also to say really quick, I think that all of us are fortunate in a way, and those who are watching and listening this to this as well, who can relate, we're fortunate in a way to have experienced this in the beginning, because I feel that we all have this mission, right, to leave this profession in a better place than what we have found it. And each one of us are doing many different things, because what we're doing is not for us specifically right now, right? But for those who are under the headset right now, and for literally that next generation of 911 who are going to be doing this. So it's up to us to do what we can. And that's why all of this stuff is very much important. So moving on from there, segueing, you know, how important is the role of cultivating a culture of mental health awareness and support in the ECC? And Corey, I want to start with you.
I just think it's so important. And you know, and as a firefighter, again, my role is a little bit different, but what I have found throughout my career, and I'm so appreciative of dispatchers, is just being part of a team on so many levels, right? And being inclusive and creating a culture where it's safe to be part of a team, where it's safe to be part of a family. So that ultimately, when I say safe, that you feel safe enough to express who you truly are. Back to what Leanne said, like years and years ago, right? You didn't say anything that would cause shame or bring attention to you. Creating a culture now that is supportive of whatever you're experiencing, right? Because every individual is different, every experience is different. Everybody's not necessarily navigating the same call, but if we can create overall safety, open communication, I think that it is so important for our overall health and well-being.
Yes, very much so. And the fact that that it's okay, right, to be able to own this, where in the beginning, like everyone is, you know, kind of mentioned already, it was the same for me. I buried my calls. So if I went to ask for help, I was afraid, like, Ricardo can't hack it, you know, that was something. But then I
Yeah.
started talking, and things have definitely changed. So it's a good thing. And so same question, going over to Leanne, and then Corey, to you. But how important is the role of cultivating a culture of mental health awareness and support in the ECC?
it's paramount, because retention of dispatchers is key. And if a dispatcher or a trainee does not feel like they are part of the culture, and if they're not allowed to express their feelings and to be vulnerable, they're not going to stay in this center, in this career. And so we as leadership have to find ways, and one size does not fit all. And you have the different, depending on when you came into this profession, you have to break the eye rollers, right? It is okay. And most of the time when that trainee or that you know, less than 5-year dispatcher comes in and says, hey, I'm feeling this, every one of the people should feel some empathy, because you're like, I've been there. Let me help you. And we should make it our goal to make it a better experience for them than when we had that experience ourselves, or we're afraid to bring that experience up.
I totally agree with I've been there, because when you think about the new dispatchers and when you talk about retention and recruiting them, that's just it. If you haven't been there, you are going to be there. It may not look like me in my situation, but there is similarities with that.
For sure. Corey, go ahead.
Yeah, and as I listened to Leanne and Courtney, you know, I couldn't agree more. I love that word, Leanne, like paramount, right? It's paramount. It's critical what we're facing in the US as we talk to dispatch centers all across the United States. Retention seems to be one of those things, and lack of staffing, right? And we've got to do something. We got to do something better. And just earlier this week, we were on with a lady from one of the agencies that we were talking to about Mindbase, and she mentioned that she, a few years ago, was just a dispatcher. She said, she goes, I wasn't in leadership, but she noticed that one of her coworkers wasn't at work one day. And so she went to their house. She took the initiative to go to their house only to find him, the person that she was working with, there kind of, she described it, and it's a little graphic, in his own vomit, right? Was drinking himself to death just because of the stresses he was feeling in his life. And she just said, enough is enough. Like, we're going to do something. And she started a really robust wellness program at the dispatch level. She's got the support of her leadership. Now she's looking for tools and resources to enhance that, but she's doing some really awesome things there. And I think that what I learned listening to her was that if you're not creating a culture of mental health awareness, you're doing the exact opposite, right? You're creating that fear or that culture of reaching out. It needs to be very normal and a normal process to, hey, we're going to talk about this at our center every day. It's going to be something that we're cultivating every day and planting seeds for.
That is perfect, because just kind of thinking back to when I first started the last agency that I was at, um it wasn't like that fully. You come in, you people would say hello to you, right? But it didn't feel welcoming, right? And it's kind of how Leanne was saying as well. If we can't have all of these pieces put together, how are we going to get people to stay, but also recognizing each other? We talk about wanting to be recognized as first responders federally and all of that, but if we can't recognize each other first, how do we expect anybody else to recognize us? And this is one of the main things here with mental health and wellness as well. And it's an important topic, and I'm glad that we're talking about this and moving forward with it as well. So moving on from there, let's look at some valuable strategies as well as building dispatcher resilience. So Corey, I want to start with you on this first, because I know through working with Mindbase and everything, you have all created such just an amazing platform for people to be able to utilize. What are some insights and valuable strategies that you can start us off with here?
Yeah, no, I appreciate that, Ricardo. Yeah, at Mindbase, I mean, we get to, like I said, talk to agencies, dispatch centers, first responders across the country, and talk to them about their best practices. And we feel that we serve a critical role in sharing those with others. And this platform with Rapid SOS gives us that opportunity. But I think you can start just by talking about it often, right? Tabletop trainings, we hear that word, that hey, let's watch a session that's in the Mindbase app for 5 minutes, 5 to 7 minutes, and then let's talk about it for 20 minutes in a quick briefing meeting or in a quick training. And also checking in with people. That's a critical component to what we're trying to do at Mindbase, is drive proactive check-ins using technology. We believe people help people. The wellness is a people business, but technology helps people help more people. You think about a CAD system or a mobile system for first responders, it helps them get to the scene of the person who needs help as quick as they can. And at Mindbase, that's what we're trying to do. Only the scene is the first responder and their life and their well-being. And us trying to drive those proactive check-ins, and surveys are another way, right? Not being afraid of the answers that we're getting back in surveys, but ask the difficult questions of our people and make sure that when we get those answers as leaders, that we act on those.
I think that's probably one of the most important things, is when we get those answers to act on them, because then people feel like they're being heard, right? And they're being recognized and they feel comfortable. And the more they feel comfortable, that builds more trust. It also builds that camaraderie within, the center and all, and they'll be more open to sharing not just what they're going through, but any other ideas. Do you feel like, do you kind of agree with that as well there?
Yeah, no, I would agree 100% with that. I think that when somebody feels that they're being listened to and that there's actions being taken on what they need, I think that can be a powerful culture change that starts happening.
Leanne, I think you had something
Yeah,
there as well. Go ahead.
I wanted to jump in there. Sorry, I got
Yes.
excited. I think, it's really important for those that are out there listening to this session right now and if you're in a position like mine, as a leader in the organization and a decision maker, you have to remember that those dispatchers sitting in that seat, taking every call and you never know what that next call is going to be. They need to see you doing something. They don't, all the other stuff that you've got going on and the pressures and the political, this, that, and the other, they need to see something. And, you know, we are a Mindbase customer, and it came to us at a time where we had just lost an officer in the line of duty. And we're a busy center. We have critical incidents every week. The staff here does not miss a beat. They really do well. They got taken down to their knees when we lost Officer Alvarado. And we had to get something going. We had to, yes, you can have the peer support in here. Guess what happens when you bring peer support in? Nobody goes and talks to them. They can't, nope, I'm fine. Nope, I don't need to be in that room, right? And so that ability to get something executed, in that ability where everybody can do it in their own time, that's what I really like about those features that you can implement as a leader in an organization. So whether it be a technology piece, we got a lot of traction out of getting a treadmill and a massage chair and putting it right off the floor. So I mean, and we got more thank yous out of that, and we don't need to be thanked, but at least that's a gauge of they see us doing something for them. So I mean, it's just that you can't just talk about it. You got to find ways to get it executed. And for those that aren't in a leadership role listening to this call and they're like, but I want to do these things and I can't, walk up to your manager, walk up to your director and say, I have an idea and here's how I would like to help execute it. Don't give them more work. Be an active participant in the success of the stress resilience tools.
Fully agreed, because sometimes, not in all places, but in some places, maybe the higher ups are thinking, where should we even start? And if somebody comes up, you know, and has an idea, I mean, that's why we're a team, right? And a family, and we can pull some of that stuff together there with new ideas and everything. Going to you, Courtney, looking at the same topic, but also, you know, some valuable strategies for building dispatcher resilience.
And I love Leanne and Corey's suggestions too about using different apps, and then also leadership providing tools. What I have found for myself is just more of a self and awareness. I'm really big on the nervous system and bringing that nervous system down. As first responders, we are constantly in an activated state because this job requires us to show up well. It becomes really difficult to bring that that level of hypervigilance down. When I started to learn about the nervous system in ways through somatics means of the body, so body techniques, to give my nervous system just a little bit of a break, and to start to identify what states I was in, I started to develop just a general self-compassion, as well as, right, like it's not easy to walk away from the screen. I can't leave a scene, but I can also do other techniques to sort of check in with myself and offer myself a small bit of stabilization if that's all I have in the moment, because not everything, like I said, is accessible, or there's not necessarily a break to walk away from things. So what I think valuable strategies are to start to use these tools, whatever modality or whatever way of healing or support, or however you can resource yourself. And by resource yourself, I mean, how can you add that little bit of, like, when we call for resources, we need additional supports. What is a personal resource to put us back in the game? So that would be a strategy for me, is to, you know, to continue to work with people and to gain different tools that work for you. Again, big on the nervous system, because I've just found it so invaluable and it's been so helpful for me.
Now, I have a question to go along with this a little bit here. It revolves around bridging the gap between seasoned dispatchers and newer dispatchers that are coming in, especially when we're talking about the topic of mental health. I feel as though if we can learn from each other by reflecting on that new employee experience, that new person that's coming in, because I feel like sometimes in dispatch, after a while, we forget what it was like in the beginning, which also causes more stress, right? Not just for those who are seasoned, but more so for the newer folks coming in. And if we're able to communicate, right, like to communicate with each other and kind of use our skills of being empathetic towards each other in the center, that is another thing, or another thing that we can work with. to be able to bridge that gap, but also help with that mental health and wellness where we're just simply understanding each other. Corey, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, no, I think that that's critical. You know, you mentioned that trying to put yourself in the shoes of someone else. You know, it is difficult when you look back and think, you know, what we were taught and what some were taught. It maybe I hear that a lot from different leaders that it's a different culture. You know, it's a different generation, and I think trying to put yourself in those shoes can be difficult. I like what Courtney made me think as she was talking there, that it's like little things make a big difference. We don't need to overthink it. You know, it can be little things, little changes that we make, or little changes in our own attitude that can make a big difference in for others out there.
Perfect. What about you, Leanne? What are your thoughts?
You know, a couple of thoughts on this. The culture is in the conversation. So having those conversations and really being able to identify. So someone's like, "Oh my gosh, you've been here forever. How can I be helpful?" Yes, you can. And then, Ricardo, I know you're the moderator, but I'm gonna push this back on you and really ask you. I think a lot of times you're within the trenches and the I am 911 movement and telling those stories and getting it out there is really what helped a lot with stress resilience, because people started to feel like they were part of that group and they weren't alone. What do you have to say about that?
So for me, thank you, by the way, really quick. Thank you for that. I appreciate it. For myself, it was really a big thing, was trying to, I guess, understand myself, right? Because for a long time I buried those calls. Nobody wanted to talk about it. But once I started talking about it, a lot more people started talking as well. And it just began to build and build and build. And then the seasoned dispatchers were talking to the newer dispatchers, and the conversation just continued. And that's that power of storytelling, where you hear a story and you think, I'm not alone. I know what that feels like. And just even right now, I end up feeling that warmth, like I'm a part of something that's bigger than myself, but we're also all working together for those that are out there that need help. But for us, when we need help as well, if we can reach out to each other and feel comfortable doing it, we can win all of this and just make it so much better for everybody else that's going to be coming in. So those are my thoughts.
Well, and then ending that with the I think the biggest and strongest thing, and so I'm going to just make this all about you for a minute, is the I am 911 movement. I mean, that made us. It's almost like more. It's not as more dear to me than getting first responder status at the national level, but
Well,
I
yeah.
am 911. I am 911. We all can say it. You see it hashtagging or trending, whatever the right word is, on social media, and it created that collective experience, and it created the resilience movement that we're talking about right now. And that was you, my friend.
Well, thank you. You're gonna make me cry here. I appreciate that. I really do. It's been an amazing experience, and really it has been, where we all just came together to share our stories, but to let people know what it is that we do, that we're not drones, we're not just answering the phone. There's a lot more to it. And the conversation continues. So thank you for that. I appreciate it. Courtney, going back to you on the same topic here, but kind of bridging that gap between season and new coming in, and how just that conversation and being aware of each other in our beginnings, how that can help with mental health and wellness too.
I think it really does, because when I think back, or just in thinking of this career in general, it really does drain our empathy really quickly when dealing with others' emergencies, right? You're giving all of that, you're listening to stories over and over again. So empathy is often hard to find. But I think if you can go back to supporting that team and that team member again, and which wouldn't it be easiest to give it to somebody that you genuinely care about? And if you were to think about the younger you and the empathetic, and put that person in, what was the younger in me experiencing, and what do I wish I would have had in 2004, and how much different would my career have been had I had someone who had the empathy to support me where I was.
Exactly. And I think in a way we all had good folks there, right? Who talked to us and supported us. I know I did. The only thing though, along with that that supportiveness, it wasn't in the sense of the resilience, building resilience or self-care or anything. It was just, I'm here for you. Awesome. But where does the conversation go from there?
Right. Well,
Which
and
is,
which is even more
go ahead.
empathetic, right? They didn't know back then either. They did the
Mhm.
best that they could and did what they, generationally knew. And it's just, we know better now. So that's beautiful.
It's almost like parents in the sense with their first child, right? You don't
Right.
really know what to do. You're just kind of winging it. You're like, all right, now we got this. And the second one that comes, we'll maybe have a little bit of a better experience.
Exactly. If we could all go back and do it right, it would be a perfect world, wouldn't it?
Yeah, exactly. So moving on from there. So and Corey, I want to start with you on this. Or I'm sorry, Leanne, I want to start with you on this one. What are some insights in tools? And I asked this as well starting out because you are a user of Mindbase to kind of talk about this, but what are some insights and tools where the mental health of dispatchers is not only recognized but also actively protected?
You know, as a director, everybody's like, we get a lot of references to Mindbase because we are a huge Mindbase supporter. How many people use it? I don't know, because it's protected. And I don't want anybody put in a position for us not to know. And so there's a high level of trust there and reminders to really encourage people. We've hired 25 people this year. We're very proud of that, but we've also included family nights and talking about that stress resilience. And so we talk about Mindbase and that it's not only available to their new person coming into our organization where they're going to be spending a lot of time because there's a lot of mandatory overtime, but that those Mindbase tools are also available for their family. Because there's differences. This is such a specific culture, and we sometimes forget about the people that they're leaving at home, and they may not take out their bad mood on us because they want to be seen in the best light. And so when they get home, they're taking it out on their loved ones or the people that they think they can do that to. Then they get to be here 20 years and they do it to us, and that's a whole nother problem. But so really it's using those kinds of tools so that people can have it. And then, there's always that standard employee assistance program, this, that, and the other. But what I was really excited about in this last couple of years, and with the advent of Mindbase, is it's created for first responders and first responders, if you will, because a lot of times they're like first responders, but it's law and fire. And what I really like about things is dispatch is a whole different creature. We're not feeling the heat of the fire incident. We're not being exposed physically to certain things, but you never know what's going to happen on that phone. And we may have a significant critical incident going on, but we're also managing 4, 5, 6 other incidents. So there's that constant buildup of stress and tension. And so having tools available to people, even like, Courtney brings it up, bringing your heart rate back down, breathing. There's an app for that, or there's a piece for that to help you breathe and meditate at their tools in Mindbase. But folks listening to this, and then I'll wrap it up and let other people, you have to let people have their phones. You either have to let them get it through the Rapid SOS portal, but let's be honest, if you're trusting people that much to save people's lives, if you can't trust them to have their phone available, that's an issue. But so the fact that they can have that quickly and they can look at something to help them get the peace of mind before they take that next call or key up on the radio, to me, is very important.
Perfect. Moving over to Corey to kind of jump on to that, as Leanne is a Mindbase user, but coming from Mindbase and everything, what are your thoughts here? Your insights and tools where mental health of dispatchers not only recognized but also actively protected.
Yeah. No, I appreciate that question. When I listen to Leanne talk about our partnership, it makes me happy and proud to be part of Mindbase and to be working with great people and leaders like Leanne who bring resources to her people. There's just the critical feedback loop, right? Something I've learned over my career in public safety software is you got to listen to people. And one of the questions that we would get, at Mindbase, we try to make it easy for people to give us feedback. And one of those things that came to us that was really critical from a standpoint of the dispatcher. Leanne explained it. They're not on scene. Sometimes they don't get to be there as part of the closure. So we quickly worked with clinicians and therapists and others who have experience in that area and created some content specifically for the telecommunicator to kind of bridge that gap of, hey, you weren't there on scene when that scene closed and you're missing that closure, but here's some actionable things you can do. Mindbase is built on the idea of here's what you do, right? We're not just going to talk about mental health, and it's not just like going to Google and reading a bunch of articles or Wikipedia about how to feel better. It's here's some action items that you can do in the moment. And I think that action and taking action on those things is where it becomes a critical component there. And I appreciate that, Leanne brought that up. And it's really about getting your people and getting the right people in place, and then they're going to push it along, right? They'll push your program along if you can get the right people going in the right direction.
Agreed. And the more practice that there is, the more buy-in that there is as well. A lot more people will not only use that, but also any other program that is brought up in, other centers. So Courtney, going to you, you've kind of built a lot of your peer support and a lot of other programs and everything that's there. So same question for you, insights and tools where, mental health of dispatchers is not only recognized, but also protected.
Well, first of all, I want to tag on to what Leanne said about being a first responder. I was a first responder. I think it's so unfortunate that they consider law and fire, or police and fire, to be the first responders, truly, hands down, without argument. And I will go against my brothers and sisters and say dispatch is the first responder of all time. You're getting those incidents. So yes, it bothers me a little bit, and I could get out of soapbox, but I'm going to try and step off and answer the question for you. I do truly value dispatchers and want you to be part of that community. So the insights and tools, like I'd mentioned before, it's not a one size fits all, right? And you've got to decide what works for you. One person could suggest go do mindfulness things, and another person's like, that's not accessible to me, or go talk to a clinician, that doesn't work for me. I think that there are so many different modalities out there for healing, support, and wellness that I would say work with a coach, work with your supervisor, work with your wellness program or your EAP, or anything you can that is going to be something that you will use. Again, you can have all of the tools in the world. If you're not going to reach out and use those particular tools, then it's not going to benefit you. But just know what works for you, know your overall sense of well-being and where you found benefit, and then such grateful just support for people like Leanne and Corey, who have created all these different modalities to help be supportive.
Awesome. Now we have about 5 minutes left of this session, which has been awesome to be here with all of you and have this important discussion. I think we touched on everything that we kind of wanted to touch on here. But one thing I want to ask, and it's the same thing that I've asked my guests on different episodes or whatever. But this goes along with kind of some of the stuff that we kind of talked about already and was mentioned. I think Courtney, you mentioned this, so I'm gonna start with you with this last question as we wrap up here. If you could go back in time to talk to yourself in the beginning of your public safety career with the knowledge that you have now, especially on this topic that we're talking about, what advice would you give yourself?
Oh, wasn't expecting this question, Ricardo. So what would I give myself? A lot of things, right? Like, again, I don't mean to keep reiterating on self-care, but it's so important. And that's just sort of a tag word, but really like starting to care for myself, give myself a little bit more self-empathy to what I was dealing with. Again, kindness to myself, as we're talking about self and what I would offer, and to get out of that shame spiral of what I didn't necessarily do, or how could I have done it better? Because I think even that, even after the call and the incident have ended, there was the what have I done wrong, and what could I have done better? So tools to that would be find a support system that really is truly supportive, both on and off the job. Do self-care techniques, and employ, again, self-compassion, resource myself again. I like you said, in the world of mandatory overtime, that's difficult to do. But on the other part of that, like, how can I at least take a break for myself? If that is massage therapy, find a counselor early. I can go on and on and on, Ricardo. It's a matter of what worked. Yes, it's like, oh
Right.
gosh, so many things I would have done different 20 years ago.
For sure. I'm the same way, and I'll share mine here at the end. But Corey, to you, same question. Going back to when you started in all of this, to with that knowledge to what you have now, with everything that you do, what is some of the what would you give yourself advice wise?
Yeah. Yeah, I think I'll jump on something that Leanne said earlier, with those that are listening that might not be in those leadership roles, and some advice that I would have given myself was, and just a quick story. I mean, when we started Mindbase, it was kind of based around this idea of, I had heard this story a few years ago about a bunch of men who were trying to move something really heavy. It was a grand piano. They were trying tons of different things, and they tried organizing themselves by age and by strength and everything. And then one of them just quickly said, why don't we just stand close together, surround this piano, and lift where we stand? And that's had a powerful impact on me. Lift where you stand. Don't think you can't make a difference. That's the advice I would give myself. I mean, it was part of, for a long time, I worked with first responders in the CAD RMS space, heard of the difficulties they had. And then when we started Mindbase, it was with that idea that, hey, let's lift where we stand. Let's take the lessons we've learned over the past 20 years and let's make a difference. So I would say something there, go to your leadership and go with a plan. Go with that. That's the idea you like. Leanne said, don't give them extra work, but lift where you stand. I think that's what I would leave them with.
I think that's probably going to be the quote of this session there. Lift where you stand. And we've got just a couple of minutes left here. So for Leanne, same thing. If you could go back in time, what advice would you give yourself?
It's just keep showing up, be okay with making mistakes. You learn more from the mistakes. It's going to be sound strange. Learn to laugh at yourself. Don't take it so seriously, because when you're listening so hard, you stop listening. When you try really, really hard, you screw up because you're so focused on perception. Have a growth mindset, keep showing up, relax, and find your group of people, and don't talk about work all the time. Have hobbies and things outside, and those are going to change as you grow in your life, and things ebb and flow. But remember, each person makes up a comm center. Every person's needed, and you matter.
Perfect. Thank you all very much. And really quick for mine, if I could go back in time, I would tell myself to get into yoga a lot sooner. Believe me, it really does help. And meditation, but also breathing techniques. The breathing techniques help center yourself. You can do it on the phone. You can do it after a hard call, just all of it. It really centers yourself to bring yourself back, become calm, and continue to do this job. And thank you to my panelists for being here, and for all that you do, and also to Rapid SOS for the opportunity to have this important conversation, and for Ready23, but also especially to all of you, the attendees of this virtual event, Ready23. Thank you for being here and for everything that you do as the most vital piece of public safety. Thank you very much, and enjoy the rest of this virtual event. And I believe that's it. We'll go ahead and leave you there. Thank you all very much. We appreciate it.
Thank you.